Hello students. So we were covering our chapter number 2 of economics, that is people as resource, and this is the video number 3, and in this particular video we are going to cover human resources and the various factors which convert our population into human resource. That means we are going to cover the education part, the medical health facilities, and then the training part. So these are three important investment which convert the human population into quality of population, or in fact into the quality of human resource. So human capital formation is done when we are providing them proper education, proper health facilities, as well as proper skill training we are providing to our population, our working force. Then our population convert into the human resource. So first of all, we are going to understand the role of education in the life of human beings. So education that plays a very crucial role for the growth of human beings. So what is the contribution of education? Number one, education opens the mental horizon of the people. That means people's their understanding, their wisdom increases when they get the education. So as a result, they will obviously get the better opportunities of jobs as compared to the manual labor who are illiterate. Education automatically will enhance the national income of the country, because when the income of the individuals will increase, then the income of country will automatically increase. Then education also improves the working skill of the people after getting the education in various fields. They get the professional education, technical educations, and as a result their productivity also increases. And education also helps in the growth of technical fields, science and technology, that grows with the growing education among the population of a country. So how important is the role of education in the human's life? That we can understand through the example of Sakal given in your book. Now we are going to understand the role of government to increase the status of education in India. And the first thing which has been given here in this particular page, you can read it out. The government has made efforts for providing universal access to education, retention to the education, and quality of education in elementary schools. That means these are the three targets. Number one, universal access of education. That means education should be within the reach of everyone. Then retention in schools means the children who are coming to school, they should complete their school education. And then third one is the quality, improvement in quality. That is another focus of the government, that the education which is provided to the children, that should be of proper quality. And the special focus has been given to the women education or girls education. Why girls education? That we can find out when we compare the literacy rate among the males and females. Now this data clearly shows you how literacy rate has increased in India since 1951. So we have the literacy rate, not only the average literacy rate of the country, but we are also comparing the literacy rate among the males and females. So in 1951, the literacy rate of the country was 18.3%, which has increased to 74.04% in 2000 and increase. That means we have increased our literacy rate 400 times, more than 400 times in India after independence. But we compare the literacy rate of males and females, then we can clearly see the difference of literacy rate among males and females. 1951, the literacy rate among the males, that was 27%, about 27%, and among the females was 8%. A huge gap was there. And in 2011, the literacy rate among the males was about 82%, and among the females it was about 65%, 65.5%. That means around 16% of the literacy rate, 16.5% of the literacy rate among males was higher than the females, it clearly shows that we prefer to send our boy child to school rather than to our girl child. That is why the government has given the special focus on the education of women. So now in the very next slide, we are going to understand how the government has increased the investment in our education system. So education budget has increased from 1951 to 2020-21. We have decided to increase the investment on various things which help in providing education to the children. What we are going to see, we can understand it in 1951. In our first 5 year plan, we had allocated 151 crore rupees on education, which we increased in our 11 5 year plan to 3766.90 crore rupees. तो हमारा ये जो इंक्रीज है एजुकेशन के ऊपर खर्चा एक्सपेंडिचर वो कितना ज़्यादा हुआ है, दैट यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड इट थ्रू दिस सम. And the latest data clearly shows that in 2019-20, the government decided to invest about 1 lakh crore rupees on our education to build up the various infrastructures in the field of education. अगर हम इसको कंपेयर करें कि कितना परसेंट हम अपनी जीडीपी का खर्च कर रहे हैं अपनी एजुकेशन के ऊपर, तो वी कैन क्लियरली फाइंड आउट दैट इन 1951 वी वर हार्डली स्पेंडिंग 0.64% of our total income or GDP on education. That we had increased to 3% up to 2016, and recently the government decided to increase the allocation of budget to our education to 4% and more than 4%. So apart from increasing the budget on education, the government has also initiated various schemes to provide the universalization of education to the children, and one such scheme is Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan. So this Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan was initiated by the central government with the help of state governments as well as the local government. And the purpose of the Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan was to provide the education to the children in the age group of 6 to 14. And it was decided that by 2010, every child will be covered and provided the education under this age group, which the government failed to achieve its target, and now it has increased its deadline. The next scheme is the midday meal scheme. So we all know that in the government schools, in the primary government schools, elementary government schools, the government provides the food also, midday meal also to the children who are coming to the school. The government has two purposes with this scheme. Number one, to provide education, and for that purpose the children, particularly the poor group children, they should be attracted towards the school so that they come to the school on the regular basis. And the second target was the target of the health. At least these poor segment of the children, they should get nourished food in the school. That's why this midday meal scheme was initiated in all over the country. Apart from this, the government has also introduced the RTE, that is Right to Education, where the government has made right to education the part of our fundamental right. And under this right, every child living in India, he or she has the right to get the education, and the government will made efforts in this direction. Now, education, the number, the percentage, after focusing on increasing it, now we are focusing the quality of education. And for quality of education, the government has decided to open up the Navodaya schools in each district, where the quality of education will be focused. Apart from Navodaya school, even the Kendriya Vidyalayas have been set up in the different parts of the country to provide the quality of education to the children. And even the teachers training programs have been initiated by the government in this direction. Now in this particular table, we are going to understand what the government has done since 1951. So you can find out the number of colleges, number of universities, and number of students, as well as the teachers teaching in universities and colleges. Their numbers have increased from 1950-51 to 2017-18, 18-19. So just one example, you can see the number of universities after independence in 1951 were hardly 30, which has been increased to 851 by 2017-18. Similarly, the colleges increased from 750 to 42,000 colleges. Now, one more important thing that has been given in the very end, that is education budget for higher education. Higher education means the college and university education. We have seen that our government has realized that many of the children, either before completing the school or after completing the school, they do not go for higher education. So the government decided to increase the GER, that is gross enrollment ratio, and it had set the target that now the gross enrollment ratio will be achieved to 25.2% in 2017 and 30% in 2020-21. It simply means that the government will focus that at least 25% to 30% children who complete their school education, they go for higher educations in colleges and universities. इसके अलावा जो दूसरा एफर्ट आपको नजर आता है गवर्नमेंट का, वो आता है आपको, द गवर्नमेंट हैज इंक्रीज द रेप्यूटेड प्रोफेशनल कॉलेजेस लाइक IITs and IIMs in the country, and recently the seats in both these reputed institutions have almost doubled. Moreover, the government has also decided to open up the distant learning programs, distant learning universities like IGNOU, where Indira Gandhi National Open University, it is the full form, where the children can get the education, higher education, or the people who are doing their work and who cannot leave their work, they can get involved in their work, as well as they can get the correspondence education. They can get the private education through these distance learning programs or through these distant universities which are providing them this opportunity. So after covering the education, now we are covering the next aspect, that is the health aspect, which is very important for converting our population into the human resource. So only the healthy person can contribute in the economy of the country as well as in the life of themselves. We can easily understand no institution or no company would like to employ any person who remains sick. So what is the role of health in the life of human beings, and what are the various efforts the government has made to provide the health facilities? Let's understand it. So the government has increased the network of health infrastructure in all over the country. So related all the things like primary health centers, community health centers, civil hospitals, they have been opened up in the various parts of the country. Then the government has also made efforts to control the many common diseases which were there in 1950s. Disease like plague or malaria or TB. Now we hardly hear the name of these diseases, and they do not create such problems as they used to create during the time period of 1950s. The next indicator of improving health system in India is the infant mortality rate. So what is infant mortality rate? That is the number of children who dies before completing the 1 year of age in proportion of 1000 living children. So in 1951, the infant mortality rate was 147. That means 147 बच्चे उनकी डेथ हो जाती थी, वो 1 साल की एज भी कंप्लीट नहीं कर पाते थे आउट ऑफ 1000 लिविंग चिल्ड्रन ऑफ दैट एज ग्रुप. और नाउ वी हैव रिड्यूस्ड इट टू 34 in 2016. Now infant mortality rate is 34, which clearly shows that we have controlled the infant mortality rate due to our better health structure. Next one is the life expectancy. So what is life expectancy? At the time of birth, the average expected life, that is called life expectancy. Birth के समय हम expect कर सकते हैं कि ये अगर बच्चा भारत में पैदा हुआ है तो एवरेजन कितनी लाइफ स्पेंड करेगा इंडिया के अंदर उसकी एवरेज लाइफ क्या होगी, दैट इज एवरेज लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी. In 1951, the average life expectancy was hardly 32 years. That we had increased to 67 years by 2011. तो लाइफ एक्सपेक्टेंसी हमने डबल से ज्यादा करी है 1950s के बाद से. तो दैट इज ओनली बिकॉज ऑफ द बेटर हेल्थ फैसिलिटीज प्रोवाइडेड टू द सिटीजन. Next one is we have made a decline in the birth rate as well as in the death rate, and more focus on death rate due to the better facilities. Now we have declined our death rate from 40s to 7. So these data given here clearly shows the efforts made by the government in this direction and how government has improved the health facilities in India, and which can clearly be shown here through the various improvement in the different fields of health. In the end, we also go through this table given in your book, which shows the number of SCs, that means sub centers, primary health centers, community health centers, number of dispensaries and hospitals, as well as the number of beds in these hospitals, as well as the number of health staff like nursing staff and doctors that has increased in the country recently from 2013 to 17. And even we can make the comparison of all such facilities from 1950s to 2017 or 2020, which shows the improvement in the field of health. So now our next topic is the unemployment. So what is unemployment? Unemployment is a situation in which a person is ready to do the work at the existing wages, but he fails to find any work for himself or herself. That is unemployment. And we have to understand unemployment is checked in the age group of 15 to 59, which is the age group of working population, and above 60 or above 60 is the dependent population, and below 15 years of the age group is the also considered the dependent population. So dependent population depend on working population who are working. So this unemployment situation can be typed in three main categories given in your book. The first one is seasonal unemployment, second one is the disguised unemployment, and the third one that has been given to you, that is educated unemployment. So now we are going to understand what is seasonal unemployment, what is disguised unemployment, and what is educated unemployment. So the first type of unemployment is the disguised unemployment. So disguised unemployment is a situation in which more people are working in one particular field than the required number. And if we remove the extra people who are working, then there will be hardly any impact on production. Production will almost remain the same. So that is disguised unemployment. And disguised unemployment can be clearly seen in agricultural sector of India, where if 10 people are required, then 20 people are engaged in the production. And disguised unemployment situation crop up only when there are less job opportunities. Next type of unemployment is the seasonal unemployment. So when the people they get the job in one particular season and the remaining time they fail to get the job, then it is called seasonal unemployment. And it is also again can be clearly seen in agricultural sector when in certain months when there is sowing time period or harvesting time period or time period for pesticides or weedicide, then we require the large number of labor for our agricultural fields, and rest of the time we just do not require such large number of labor, so we dismiss the extra labor. So that is seasonal unemployment. Now we are moving to the third category, that is educated unemployment. Educated unemployment, we can see this phenomena in India where the people or the children they got education, the youth get the education and still they fail to get the jobs. And this phenomena clearly shows that the unemployment is more among the graduates and postgraduates who have got the higher education as compared to the matriculates who have hardly passed out matrix 10th class. The another contradictory situation can be seen that in many fields, many sectors, there is the surplus manpower. That means extra people are there as compared to the requirement, and there are many sectors or fields where there is a dearth of, or where there is a lack of technical skilled people. So after covering this particular part, we are moving to the next part, that is the different causes of unemployment. So here are these various causes given which leads to the unemployment, like the slow economic growth rate of the country, then population explosion or growing population, then underdeveloped agriculture of India, then defective educational system, slow economic growth of industries, then decline of cottage and small scale industries, and then various more reasons. So one by one we are going to understand all these reasons. So the first cause is the rapid population growth. We know that the population of India in 1950s was less than 40 crore, and now it has increased to 135 crore by 2019-20. So such a huge population can never get the job opportunity, and government cannot provide jobs to each and every person if the population is growing with such a pace, with such a speed. So this is one cause of unemployment in India. Now the second cause is the backward method of agriculture. So India, which is considered an agricultural country, here still in 21st century, more than half of the population of our country is practicing agriculture, and then they are practicing agriculture on the old and obsolete methods, which has led to the decline of agriculture. So our next reason for unemployment is the seasonal nature of agriculture. So in agriculture, there are certain seasons when we require the more labor, and in rest of the time, few people can do the work. That means the remaining population became unemployed during that particular time when we require less labor in agriculture. The next reason is the decline of cottage industries. So our cottage industries, handicraft and handloom industries provide employment more particularly to people in the rural areas. But we have seen the decline in cottage industries, handicraft and handloom industries, which also resulted in unemployment, more specifically in the rural areas. The next reason is the defective education system in India, which is not job oriented or skill oriented, and which is only degree oriented. That is why we can see the unemployment situation more in matriculates, in graduates, as well as among the postgraduates. Now the last reason we are covering here is the slow industrialization or slow pace of industrialization in India. So what we have seen, industrialization in India after independence, that has always remained slow, which led to the decline, or which led to the increase in the unemployment situation and over dependence on agriculture. So now we are covering the last topic, that is the results of unemployment. If the population remains unemployed, what are the effects we can see? And the number one is the wastage of human resource. So human beings, which after making proper investment, we convert them into resource, they remain wastage if they are not getting employment according to their education, according to their talent. The second is, if people or human resource fail to get employment, then it leads to the poverty, not only for individual but for the country as well. Rise in social problems like crimes or like social evils will also be seen. If unemployment is there, unemployed youth, they will indulge in criminal activities. Then compromise in quality of life is also obvious result of unemployment. And now the last reason is the overburden on working force. So if our youth fails to get the employment, then it will increase the burden on the working force who are already working. They will have to take care of more number of people. So now we have covered each and every topic related to this chapter. I hope you understood everything. Thanks for watching the video. Have a nice day.